Last time out in Japan, the championship fight heated up. Right on that white line, right on the edge, slowest point, gives him a shove. Gives him a shove down at turn 11 at the hairpin. Oh, there's some temperature out there now. It was one win apiece for Muggleton and Simmons. Matt Simmons, it's another race win, victory number 3 in the Speedweek eSeries for 2018. Today we travel to Monza in Italy for round 3 of the Speedweek eSeries.
Welcome to round 3 of Speedweek's eSeries, powered by Gran Turismo Sport and PlayStation 4, where we see Australia's best GT sport racers compete alongside our finest professional drivers in racing simulators, taking on some of the best tracks the world has to offer in pursuit of the eSeries title. We've seen some tight races so far, with our professional drivers certainly bringing their A-game and our gamers showing some fierce competitive strength. With our professional driver Matt Simmons leading by 24 points, this week at Monza is going to be the round for every driver and gamer to step it up. Get ready to rumble, we're in for a ride.
I'm Jake Blackall, 22, avid sim racer, being picked up by Ash Sutton to compete in British Sim Racing Tourer Cars Championship and compete in numerous European leagues. I'm driving in the BMW M6 GT3.
I'm Keishi Yuka, I'm 31, I'm a 2016 GT Academy International finalist, and 2017 I raced in the Nissan Micro Cup in Canada, and I'll be racing in the Nissan GTR GT3.
I'm Joel Dimmack, I'm 28 from Brisbane, Queensland. I'm a professional drifter and a sim racer. Today I'll be driving the Audi R8 GT3.
I'm Simon Feigl, I'm 33 years old from Melbourne, the highest placed Australian within the Blancpain GT Championship in iRacing, and today I'll be driving the McLaren GT3.
I'm Josh Muggleton, 31 from Sydney. I'm gamer turned real life racer through GT Academy, and for this competition I'm racing the Mercedes AMG GT.
I'm Matt Simmons, 29 from Melbourne, Australia, the winner of the Nissan PlayStation GT Academy Championship, now a professional driver and now driving the Jaguar F-Type GT3.
I'm John Collins, 26 from Sydney, 2015 Australian Formula 3 champion. I'm a pro driver driving the Honda NSX GT3.
I'm Luke King, 28 years old from the Central Coast of New South Wales, pro driver, currently racing in the 2018 Toyota 6 Racing Series. Today I'm racing the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3 and I'm here to beat up some gamers.
What a fine team of competitors we have behind the wheel this series. Let's get things underway with our first qualifying session.
Thank you, Tess. Yes, 2 rounds down so far in the eSeries, and today we're at the famous Monza circuit in Italy, so we take a look at some highlights from qualifying. The 2 form guys in this year's series, Josh Muggleton and Matt Simmons. This was Matt Simmons' time coming to the line at 1:48.4 was the time the rest of the field chased, as we picked up the number 58 McLaren coming through to finish off the lap here of Simon Feigl, currently 3rd in this year's series. His time was just half a second slower at 1:48.9. But then the big Mercedes came out of Josh Muggleton, the Mercedes AMG GT3, the man who's chasing Matt Simmons in this year's series. These guys went stroke for stroke at Bathurst and at Suzuka. The Mercedes got across the line to be 0.03 of a second quicker, a 1:48.37 to secure another pole position ahead of Matt Simmons. Simon Feigl will start from 3rd, Jake Blackall in 4th. Keishi Yukai starts out of 5 ahead of Luke King, John Collins, and Joel Dimmack will be your starting order for race number 1. So the drivers getting prepared for race number 1 here around this world-famous Italian circuit here at Monza. And can anybody catch Matt Simmons or Josh Muggleton here today? Certainly have been the class guys since this eSeries started just a couple of rounds ago. We're underway for race number 1 here around the Monza circuit. Heading down the main straight, the big sound of Joel Dimmack's Audi as he chases after the Ferrari, the McLaren right in the middle of the sandwich. You've always got to be careful on the run down to turn number 1. McLaren carrying lots of heat. It spears off down at turn number 1. An expensive rear end crash going through the first right and left combinations here. A part of the circuit that was modified some 15 to 20 years ago. We stay behind the Ferrari for first of 3 laps, but it's Muggleton out in front. Feigl has got up to 2nd place now, and Matt Simmons holding down 3rd position in the big Jag. You're watching Luke King on the charge down here to the second hardest braking point down here. Big dive down the inside from the Audi. Does he get it done? Yes, he does. The Ferrari's in trouble and is around down here and lucky not to get collected for a second time. But it puts him to near back of the field. And now Matt Simmons goes after the big McLaren 650 through the right-hander and down under the famous oval. The race for so many years back in the early days of motor racing, not just Formula One, but motor racing in general. He's got a run now, pulls out the slipstream, should be able to get it done on the charge down into the left hand of the chicane, and Simmons moves back into second. So the usual suspects at the front of this race. Muggleton ahead. Oh, a bit of a wide move then from the McLaren. Had to step off the accelerator once or twice, but he's back in the slipstream. As down to the parabolica for the first time. Muggleton, sizable lead at the moment, but this guy on the charge. Matt Simmons in the Jaguar, pole position on a couple of occasions, and leads this series in its early history this year. So they come through to complete the first lap. Now the McLaren, a bit more straight line speed, and Simmons driving it right down the middle, making the McLaren go the hard way. Won't be able to do it down here, and we'll have to line him up for another pass. So, while these guys battle it out, he gives Josh Muggleton a bit of breathing space. There he is, just disappearing. The gap is out to just over 2 seconds now through the right-hander. We stay on board with the McLaren. The sweet sounds of this 650. Down into the chicane. Joel Dimmock and the Audi is back in 4, still ahead of a U-Car and a GTR. Jake Blackhall is 6, Collins in 7th, and Luke King after that spin right here on the first lap is running back at 8th position. Oh, there was a drama. A missed gear, was it perhaps? Joel Dimmock's Audi, and he's lost a position in the wars. And again, oh, this car is evil today. You can hear the tyres just protesting going through the right-hander. And now we'll lose touch with the cars ahead. Underneath the big bridge where the famous oval ran across the top into the left-hander. There's a GTR ahead. And more drama happening. It's the Audi off the circuit this time at Joel Dimmock, who was running 6th, make it 7th now because he's swallowed up by John Collins, we haven't seen too much of. Hopefully it's a return to form for John Collins. Meantime, here's Simon Feigl on the back of Matt Simmons once again. We saw how strong he was on the previous lap. Runs it down the straight. Muggleton as far right as he can possibly go. If the McLaren's going to do it, he's going to have to force a gap. Tries the outside. Straight line speed. He's got past him but won't have the line going down into turn number 1. Great racing in race number 1 here at Monza. And if anything, they've closed on to the back of Muggleton a little bit here. Final lap. Simmons just opening the door. He's teasing Simon Feigl here. Feigl, a full head of steam in that McLaren, pushes him along right now. To the outside. This is great driving from Simmons. Parks it down the middle of the road into the chicane. And here the wheels just across those Vallelunga curbs, really eating these cars alive through the right-hander. Part of the circuit that really sucks you in. You carry too much speed in, particularly this corner here. It's about the exit. He was right on the back of the big Jag. He's fallen away just for a moment. Down the hill for the final time. Muggleton, who scored another pole position in that Mercedes, is looking good. He's led from the get-go here. The gap hasn't really extended any more than 2 seconds all race long. And through the left-hander, across the curb. Desperation time now for Feigl aboard the McLaren 650. If he can do it, it'll be a huge effort to pull it off down here at the Parabolica. I just don't think he's close enough. From a long way back. And he's trying, but I think he's going to have to settle for 3rd position. Nonetheless, we know this car has got some car pace. Just these 2 guys ahead have been the standout performers. It's another win from pole position for the Mercedes. Give it to Josh Muggleton in race number 1 here at Monza. Drag race for 2nd and 3rd. And it goes to Simmons by less than a car length. Look at that, those guys separated by less than 2 seconds in the end. Simmons in second, Feigl third. Ayukai quite run back there in the GDR in fourth ahead of Blackhole. Collins in sixth. Luke King got back to seventh. And Joel Dimmack some 21 seconds behind in eighth.
Winner of Race 1 Monza, Josh Muggleton, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that one was really good. That's what I needed to do to keep this championship in my control, so happy.
There was so much pressure happening behind you. Matt, Simon, it was all happening.
Yeah, it was all happening behind me, and luckily they distracted each other from staying near me so I could drive my own race and bring it home.
Well, very well done. Congratulations again. We're going to head to a break now, and as we do, we're going to get to know professional driver John Collins a little better. When we're back, it's race 2 at Monza.
I'm John Collins, 26, from Sydney, 2015 Australian Formula 3 champion, pro driver driving the Honda NSX GT3. Being a pro driver and coming onto the sims, it's a little bit different. You have to change your driving style a little bit to what we'd normally do out on the track. And going up against guys that have been racing sims for quite a long time, it's pretty tricky. They're incredibly good at what they do. So it's a bit of a challenge, but it's one I'm really excited for. When you're in an actual car, it's the speed, it's the G-forces, throwing you around, the close racing and whatnot, but then getting on a sim, it's a lot more mental focus. So it's challenging in that respect that, you got to be on point every lap after lap, because one little mistake, especially against some of these pro sim drivers, one little mistake and you're 20 seconds down the road. So the mental focus on a sim is incredible. But yeah, it's just everything about motorsport's exciting to me. It's something I've grown up around, and I just love it so much. It's amazing being a part of this series. It's something new and something fresh to Australian TV. So to be part of the first series it's an honour and it's a privilege, and it's very exciting, that's for sure.
I'm Jake Blackall, 22. Some of my achievements that I've done in sim racing alone as being one of the winners in the British Sim Racing Touring Car Championship, especially being the first Australian. That also has led to many other opportunities in terms of European series, and lifestyle-wise and how it all goes into it. European stuff, getting up early in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, that's difficult, but it's a thrill. I love it. I love doing everything that I do, and I wouldn't stop it for a heartbeat. Sim racing in a whole, I love the competitiveness and how it all comes together, and being able to do it in a sim racing environment and get that same feeling and adrenaline rush that you get from real racing is something that I absolutely love about sim racing. This series, it's a major opportunity. It's something that we need in terms of Australian esports series. Sim racing is definitely stepping stone to becoming a professional racing driver, and it's definitely going to the strengths and leaps and bounds of what it has come in Australia, let alone the world. So to go into and actually get into a professional race car, that would be a major thing for me. Being able to show what we can do behind in terms of a sim racing wheel and try and see what we can do against these guys who drive cars all the time is a major achievement that this competition is being able to bring, and I think it's going to be an exciting competition ahead, and hopefully everyone enjoys it.
Time to check out the points after race number 1 here today in Monza, and the gap was 24 points coming into the round. It's now 16, so Matt Simmons needs to keep an eye on what goes on in this next race, because Muggleton is just starting to reel him in. Feigl back in third as we take a look at highlights of qualifying for race number 2. What you saw in race number 1, forget it. We reset it and do it all over again. Matt Simmons out on the circuit. We saw him qualify on the front row. This time he stopped the big Jag at 1:48.78. Simon Feigl, his shadow, his sparring partner, if you will, in the first race aboard that McLaren, was once again strong in qualifying for race number 2 as he bought the bright orange McLaren, but it was only a 1:49.0, only 2.5 tenths behind. So that left this guy once again aboard the big Mercedes, and this gets him ever closer to grabbing another points win in this year's series. Give it to Josh Muggleton, and again, a 1:48.71, just 68 thousandths of a second quicker.
He is certainly turning up the heat. Josh Muggleton, congratulations on pole position.
Thank you very much. Yeah, not a great lap, but just got there in the end.
I think you've reduced the gap to about 15 points between you and Matt.
Wow, okay. Yep, so pressure on this race now and I need to turn it into a win.
You absolutely do. What's going to be an important factor?
Oh, just not make any mistakes, I think. Just do my own thing.
No room for error. All the best.
Thank you.
And here is the starting grid for race number 2 here today in Monza. Josh Muggleton and Matt Simmons. Looking forward to this rivalry intensifying as the season goes on. The Mercedes up against the Jag. Feigl in third. Jake Blackhall scoring his best result in 4th position with Joel Dimmack as well in the Audi. We saw him in the wars in race number 1. Ayukai, King and Collins starting from the 8th position. Once again, as the drivers gear up, they rub their hands. They go through the last-minute preparations ready for race number 2. It's another 3 laps, but a longer distance around here than what we've seen with the other tracks, apart from Mount Panorama, obviously, and a standing start, which really spiced up things in race number 1. It's go here at Monza for race number 2, as again, it's almost a carbon copy, except the McLaren is not in the middle. It's Joel Dimmack and the big Audi going for 2nd place here. This is a huge move on the run down to turn number 1, but watch Matt Simmons, he's coming in deep, and again, this is exactly, whoa, that was huge. The McLaren, and you can hear the doors banging, the mirrors breaking at the same time, and all that hard work goes out the window. John Collins, though, will like what he sees because he's up into 3rd position. The Honda is on the charge. The Ferrari braking hard now from a long way back into, oh, there's a lot of feeling in this race, and now the bollards get shoved out the way. So that's 2 turns and 2 pretty significant incidents here today in Monza. More side-by-side action. Nobody prepared to give an inch. They know the first lap is where the most opportunities are made, and now the Ferrari sits back in that 5th position of Luke King, but it's an angry battle pack, isn't it? 4 cars. Oh, a bit cheeky, wasn't it, moving across at the apex of the turn, and now we'll make him work on the run down here. Oh, you get the feeling this is going to explode into the chicane. They bump and they survive just. Ayukai looking to stretch the legs of the big GTR. Had a strong showing in race number 1. Was impressive at the Nissan home track, if you will, over in Suzuka at the previous round, and now side by side to make another position. This is the battle for 5th and 6th. Gets it done. Thought about the Ferrari, but decided not to. Going way too quick into that corner. And now Blackhall will go side by side with the GTR. He slots into the slipstream of the Ferrari. So instead of watching the front guys scrap it out, we're watching the guys a bit lower down the order, and it's a 5-car freight train as we start lap number 2. On board now with the GTR. The Ferrari fancies a move on John Collins, who runs wide, has to take to the inside of the chicane, and now it all explodes. The Ferrari slow away, and Feigl trying to get himself back into position here after that spin at the start of this race, is now in 4th. Ferrari wants to go side by side. Much more aggressive than what we saw in race number 1. Don't tell me we're 3 wide. No, 2 wide's probably crazy enough down here at the chicane. The GTR, the unique sound of Godzilla through the right-hander. Up on that curb. See how uncomfortable the car gets when it hits the gutter on the inside. So Blackhall, Dimmack has dropped back to 8th position now in all of this. Past the wall cam. GTR ahead. Muggleton still leads from Matt Simmons. You're on board now with Blackhall, that BMW M6. Beautiful sounding car. Down into the left-hander. Just runs it wide. Becoming way too hot, and that's going to kill any chance. Car off the right-hand side. And Collins, is he stopping? Is he out of this race, or has he run out of racetrack and just glanced the wall? Whatever's happened, it's put him right out of contention here today in Monza. Look at the right-hander here now. GTR right on the edge. Grabs a gear. Tries to find a slipstream on the back of the Ferrari ahead of Luke King. They go on by to start another lap here. The final lap. The GTR pulls out. He's got more speed than the Ferrari, but he's on the wrong side. If this was the old days, he'd be able to get it done, but he does anyway. And does it with ease into the right-hander. The McLaren is ahead, so Feigl has right the wrong of that turn 1 and turn 2 incident he had at the start of the race. Got himself back up into a podium position. We haven't seen much of the front 2 guys, but they're still there, and they're miles ahead right now. Muggleton ahead of Simmons, Feigl, and Luke King, who you're watching with Keisha Yukai, the big GTR, who's slicing his way through the field. Watch him appear. Gets it done, or does he? Serves the Ferrari up in the process. And now, the Ferrari, all that good work, he's been lucky to get us out of the kitty litter too, and does, but puts himself right out of contention too to join Joel Dimmack and John Collins. Meantime, Muggleton, the first we've really seen of the Mercedes all race long, and has a massive margin. This is going to be one of the biggest winning margins, if he can hold on, that we've seen in the short series. Down the long back straight. This guy, 2 pole positions. He scored a victory in race number 1. It was 16 points to deficit between he and Matt Simmons. We're going to have to start to talk about championships soon, because this is real close now. In the Speedweek eSeries, as out of the final turn, a flash of the headlights, because Josh Muggleton knows he's in a chance of winning this year's series. Seesaws at the steering wheel and takes victory in race number 2 ahead of Matt Simmons. Great recovery from this guy. Simon Feigl to get home in 3rd position. And the rest of the field that were really joined at the hip, including Blackhall, Yukai, King, Dimmack, and Collins, who fell away towards the end of the race there. But you can't take anything away from Muggleton. A class act here today in Monza.
Simon Feigl, 3rd place, stellar effort out there. You must have been wondering what could have happened if you didn't get turned around at turn 1.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a tough pill to swallow. I actually had a pretty good start. Managed to get through, and I felt like if I, based off the traction that the McLaren's got, I could have had a good run into the next section. But with the turn, I had to just quickly spin it around and get going again. But thankfully showed good pace out there to come back through the field. You
did not give up. You dropped down to 7th and then came back up, and you were everywhere.
Yeah, well, everybody was everywhere, actually. It was a really intense little squabble in front of me, which actually helped me to close up. But once I sort of got through that, then had a pretty clear track for the last lap.
You're bringing your A game. What can we expect next round from you?
Hopefully, I'm right on the heels of Matt and Josh, and I just haven't quite been able to click it into gear. So hopefully, just do that last little step and really give them a shake.
We'll be cheering for you.
We arrived here at Monza and the gap was 24 points. We leave and it's 8 points only now between Simmons and Muggleton. Feigl back in 3rd. Blackhall now in 4th ahead of a Yukai, King, Collins and Dimmack. So those 3 guys will battle out for 6th, 7th and 8th position when we head to the next round at Le Mans, as we take a look at the overall between the pro drivers and the pro gamers. Matt Simmons heading up the pro drivers by just 8 points. Simon Feigl has not a bad margin over Jake Blackhall right now as we get set to go to Le Mans for the next round.
Well, it is with great pleasure that we award winner of round 3 their trophy. Congratulations, Josh Muggleton. Well, things are really, truly heating up. We said they would, and they have delivered. Josh, it is now game on.
Yeah, well and truly. Points are really close, so going to the last round, who knows what's going to happen.
Circuit de la Sarthe, what are some of the things you're going to be having to take into consideration here?
Oh, the draft. And my car's a bit slow in a straight line, so a few of the other guys, they might be up there for this one.
Well, there you have it. Sim racing truly at its best. It doesn't get better than that. Next week is our 4th and final round at Circuit de la Sarthe in France, which will see us uncover our very first Speedweek eSeries champion. That'll be a round to watch, and we look forward to taking you along for the ride. See you then.